G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and today I have a debutant on the show. You might recognise the surname, the DeSena surname, but it's none other than Geordie's brother, Matt DeSena. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me. Yeah, excited to be on.
It's good to have you here. I think a few months ago you sent me a message saying you were really keen to be involved in the show or in the podcast in some way. And you basically told me that Geordie steals all your ideas, or he gets all his ideas from you. So why not better to come to the source of all Geordie's ideas and have you on the show first up?
Yeah, spot on. So I'd say before Geordie comes on the pod, he probably talks to me about everything. Every Twitter post he's ever put up, he checks with me first. So
okay,
you could basically say it's my knowledge, not his.
I love the digs at the brother straight up. But no, that's good to hear. Geordie, we're just kidding, mate. We love you if you're listening, which I know you will be. But anyway, tell us about your fantasy story. You had a bit of premiership success in your Keeper League last year. Tell us a bit about it at the moment. How's it all going?
Yeah, going well. So yeah, won the flag last year. We've been going for this is our sixth season coming up. So I won last year. Geordie won the two before. So the DeSena brothers have won 3 in a row. So the boys are a bit sick of us. But yeah, it's good. Got a good bunch of lads. We all signed like 15-year contracts a few years ago. So
yep.
Yeah, team's looking all right. Just got a few things to fix up first.
No, that's awesome. But we'll get into that. So what's your team looking like? You keep 12, is that right, in your league?
Yeah, so we have 25 plus 1, so a rookie. So it's basically 26 on a list. And then we keep 12 plus a rookie, so 13 essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to drop one of Zorko, Stewart or Amon in my backline probably, and then one of Cogs, Tel Mitchell or Wines in my midfield, and then either Jeremy Cameron or Luke Parker.
So you got some decisions to make.
Yeah, my team was pretty stacked at the back end of last year, obviously winning a premiership. So
it's nice to be in a situation where you can only keep 12 and you've got more than 12 that you want to keep.
Yeah, I've probably got like 18 keepers. Yeah. Like in other years, they'd walk into my team, and this year it's sort of like, oh, I'm not too sure. See how we go. So, yeah, any decisions you're looking at as well?
I don't know. Like, my big ones, like my 12 are really solid. I traded, I've just got a lot of guys that like you could keep, but you could make a case for keeping. Like, for example, Xavier Dersma, who's like averaging 82. Like, does he go another level? Does he remain at that? Sam Durham's the same. Like, I just don't see like another avenue for him to go bigger, but he'll be an 80. I've got a lot of those guys that are going to average 80, and it's just like, do you keep them or like, and they're midfielders, or do you keep like some of the more fringe defenders or something like that? Because I don't know, I used to think defenders were more scarce, but I've worked it out. It's actually pretty even when you factor in 5 defenders versus 7 midfielders. Like the lowest ranked midfielder and defender kind of average the same, so they're not as actually better. So you're better to keep the 80 average guy. You're better to average keep someone like, I don't know, Jake Lloyd, who can still put out 150s like every now and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't mind a little ceiling in my D3 or D4.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Win your games. Like, I had Nick Newman last year and won a big 150 in the granny.
Exactly, yeah. Those ceiling guys can pump them out. But anyway, we get stuck into the show. But first of all, the keeper platform, have you moved any of your leagues there?
Yeah, so I'm the one we were just talking about. I'm commissioner of that league. So we've all jumped over to keeper. So we started on Ultimate Footy, and then we moved to obviously fantasy when that happened, and then I've put all the data in. So currently everything that's run through our league is like in a spreadsheet, and like all the trades, all the history, all the draft picks. We trade 1 year in advance, so everything's like kept on a spreadsheet. So now to be able to put that into the app, and people can just, everyone messages me, hey man, you got this, hey man, you got that. I have like a link on the page that we have, but no one looks at that. So they can just check it, send the trades. I like the scoring, how you can, like the vice captains can be 1.5.
Yeah, make those little
all
adjustments.
All the boys complain about the lockout because they're playing footy on Saturdays. You know, Geordie's sitting home watching footy.
So, sitting on the loop, sitting on the waiver wire before everyone else can get that sort of stuff as well.
Just all those features and things like that. So our league's actually really looking forward to jumping in. So
I'm loving that history section. In one of my leagues, like the commissioner has kept like every result for every game, whatever. So we've actually got like a full 10-year ladder. Well, I don't think it's that long. It's about the 6-year ladder sitting there. So you can see who's been like the most dominant team over the 6 years, you know.
Yeah. I got the same thing for our league. So I keep that ongoing ladder. So my team, like I finished like second bottom, third bottom. Yeah. And then the last couple of years I've jumped up. So it's weird. Like I've got I have not many wins, but I've got that premiership there, so my team sits a bit higher on the ladder than anyone else's.
Yeah,
so.
it's good seeing all the cups next to your name as well. You even
Yeah.
get third place medals in there, which I was really surprised about.
Good.
So, yeah, I don't know if I'd celebrate third place too much. But anyways, we are here today to talk about ranks. So the idea for the show is back in the days, like Kays and I, and usually someone else, a third party, has been Dos, has been Parch, has been a few different guys in the past. We all do our ranks and then we kind of put them out line by line. Decided to do a little bit differently this year where I've just gone through and ranked 400 players in order. Yeah, it's been a slog. But not only that, I've been ranking, I've done a list for contending teams and a list for rebuilding teams as well. And not going to lie, it has been the most like frustrating, like tedious process, I think, going through. Because like, there's just so many things. Like if you're a contending team, if you're a rebuilding team, obviously you want younger players, but there's still value in like older players as well. Like if you've got someone like Dane Zorko sitting there at pick 150 or whatever because no one else has touched him, you may as well take him. And then if things go pear-shaped or like, you could trade him to a contender later on. Like classic example, I think in our league is like, Matthias Philippou, I think, got traded for Jeremy Cameron. So Matthias Philippou had that injury at the end, midway through the season, I think it was, or two-thirds of the way through. Yeah. And one of the contenders was like, well, I need a forward now. So he's traded him for Jeremy Cameron. He's like 84 average forward. That's fine. But then Matthias Philippou came out and had that huge end to the season. Like, things like that can happen where an injury strikes, the team that's leading panics, needs a replacement, and you can sometimes get bargains like that. So
definitely.
And you need those older players that have that value. So I found it so hard to like where to pick them because you don't want to neglect them completely, but you still want to go for players beforehand. You know what I mean?
Just in our league, I was able to trade in one trade. I traded in Zorko, Coniglio, Ollie Wines, and I think it was Jeremy Cameron or Toby Green, one of them. Yeah. And all I gave up was Humphrey, I gave up Harley Reid, obviously, which is a big pick, and then my first rounder. Yeah. So I was able, because he was on the way out, he's saying I'm going to rebuild. I was pushing for that flag, and we're able to. There's a lot of value there. You probably think right now maybe he won that. He lost that trade. Yeah. But then going forward, if Humphrey and Reid can become really, really good and use that pick one this year to maybe get a rookie or something that's coming through. Yeah,
exactly. So
he's laughing, and I won the flag. So then in the end, it didn't really matter for me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's crazy like that. So I found that really hard, but they'll be out. I'm going to go through with a fine-tooth comb. I reckon Monday and Tuesday I'm just going to keep going at it, and then hopefully I'll have them out by Wednesday for the public. And then what's good about doing them myself and not relying on two other people is like I've wanted to do updates throughout the preseason and it goes on, but it's hard to kind of make other people find the time to do it and stuff like that. Whereas like now I've got control over all of them. I can do updates halfway through the preseason, or like I plan to spend like a day a week or, half a day a week kind of just tinkering through them, going through all the news or the, injuries, all that sort of stuff, and moving around my ranks as well. So like it stays updated over the preseason. I'm not waiting on someone else to update theirs and that sort of stuff as well. So that's kind of the kind of reasoning behind the change this year. But hopefully with the multiple lists, the rebuilding, the contending, but then also there's an overall list as well I've done as well. So it's more of a balanced list. So it's more, you kind of neither here nor there. You just want to pick the best kind of players available in order. There'll still be like an overall list as well, which is what we're going to be looking at today. So my top 100 overall or balanced kind of ranks. So before we get into it, there's a few omissions that people might expect to be in the top 100.
I'm keen to see who we've got who's left out of the top 100.
So a few that I've got here that I thought were a bit glaring. So Caleb Windsor is the first that's been left out of the top 100. Ooh. He was ranked 101. So he's very, very close. And I think in the contending ranks, he's obviously a lot higher. The rebuilding ranks, he's obviously a lot higher as well. So, and I think in the contending, he's just outside the top 100 as well. So he was so close to getting in. The community rate Josh Rochelle pretty highly. They've got him at 91. But I've left him out. I just can't see it happening for him as a fantasy jet. You know what I mean?
I like him, but I'm just not sure about his fantasy credentials just as a consistent scorer, I'd say. I think he'll have those ceiling games where he kicks, 4 or 5 and looks really good, but I think he probably wants someone that's just a bit more solid and consistent. Yeah, and I just don't... The midfield's gotten deeper. I just don't see how he gets those roles in there that he needs to get fantasy scoring. I think he ends up like... a Jack Ginnivan kind of type where you can push up the ground a bit and get a few more points that way, but he's not going to be that midfield guy. And at his peak, he's probably going to be a mid-70s kind of guy. Yeah, high half forward. Yeah. Then. But forward status, look at forwards this year, like top 10 forwards are, they're pushing maybe 80 or or 75. So he'd be around the mark, but yeah, I wouldn't say top 100.
Yeah, exactly.
About right.
Ollie Hollands is just outside as well. Just a little bit uncertainty with the news of Doc also training as a defender
I'm
as well.
a big fan of Ollie Hollands.
So am I, and he's very high he's a lot higher in the rebuilding ranks as well, but it just kind of falls out with the contending ones as well. This is another factor of the contending also is just reliability as well. Like, because once you get out of your best 18 too, you want to be picking players that aren't going to be in and out of the side. You know, you want to be guys that are on your bench that are going to play and put up a 60 to 70, which is kind of, if someone gets injured, they're handy to have for a few weeks, as opposed to like someone who could be good. Like you think of like someone like Sardis. Like there's all the reports and the hype that he's going in, but he also could not be in the team at some weeks as well, or in a role. Yeah,
like
so
Ben Hobbs as well.
Yeah, that's another one. Like those kind of players, like they got so much potential, but they can't be relied on yet. You know what I mean? So that's another thing you kind of just
that balance of, you know, taking, even if you're rebuilding, you still need to be able to put scores up, and you don't want to finish bottom and ninth. So
yeah,
it's that balance, really, isn't it?
100%. Archie Roberts is another one. The community is very high. I just think it's too much of a sample size before we can start throwing him.
3 games,
4, I think, in the end. But yeah, so can't go throwing him in the top 100.
And he was half back, and now they're talking Dylan Shields training back there.
And he's been there. I think he's been. No, he was on the B team this week on their try club as well, so that's another thing to kind of worry about. And the number one pick, Sam Lawler, doesn't make the top 100 as well. So
controversial.
Yeah, I guess it is. Like he just loses ground as I see him taking a while to have an impact. But again, he's higher on the rebuilders list as well, just not in the balance kind of thing.
I think he's injured now at the minute. As well.
I missed that one, so that's good.
I think he's been eased in. So. He had a few hamstring injuries last year.
Yep.
So
he did too. Yeah.
Probably a good call.
Yeah. So I've dropped him down a little bit as well. All right, let's get into the top 100. So we'll go in groups of 10. We'll start at 100 and work our way up to number 1, and then I'll point out the kind of discrepancies between my ranks, the community ranks, the ADPs, all that sort of stuff to kind of have a chat about. They're kind of talking points. The ones that kind of line up too closely there. Like there's no point because everyone kind of agrees, I think. So we'll kind of talk about them. So coming at number 100 is Harry Perryman, 99 James Peatling, 98 Kadeen Coleman, 97 Jordan Ridley, 96 Brodie Grundy, 95 Lawson Humphreys, 94 Tom Stewart, 93 Daniel Rioli, 92 Jordan Sweet, and 91 Adam Chera coming in there. So anything that jumps out to you there?
I'd probably say Chera, I reckon.
Yeah.
Just 91. I probably wouldn't even have him in the top 100 personally,
just
based off the injury consistency. You know what I mean? So
he's a favourite of mine, and I do rate him. And the other thing is the Jagger Smith situation as well. And like they think there was like talk of him going a half back, but that doesn't look like happening. Like I get what you mean.
I think he's definitely a good player.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about him as a consistent footballer, just because injuries.
I get you. I think the potential's there for me.
Didn't he just sign like 20, 30 or
something like that? Yeah, something ridiculous. So they must rate him, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like last year was a bit of an outlier. It's just he hasn't had that season where it's all clicked, you know what I mean? But I think he's the player that's capable of doing it. For mine, like if I look compared to the community, Jordan Ridley, the community is pretty off him. Like it looks like he's out of the top 100 for them. But like he's still going at 77 on the mock draft simulator. I know he's had another injury concern this year, but he's only 26. Like in keeper league terms, like he's still got another 5 years ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely.
And those
I'm a former owner as well, Ridley.
Yeah. Where'd you trade him out or?
Yeah, traded him out for Tom Stewart actually.
Oh, there we go, the other one. So the community is really low on Tom Stewart as well, given what he's 31, 32 now, and had a struggling year. But I guess the important thing is like he proved he can play other roles and stuff like that. So I've still got him there. If you're looking for a balanced team or a team that just wants to score points, Tom Stewart's up there for mine.
Well, Tom Stewart went into the middle for games last year. So they're still looking. Obviously, Bailey Smith signed. So I think they're still looking. But he signed for another 3 years, pretty sure, Tom Stewart. So to me, I think it'd be until Lawson Humphreys takes the keys off him, basically. But he's still going to play that role. I think he's good for an 85, 90 for another couple of years.
100%.
And I think Ridley's the same, but maybe he's playing more lockdown because they've got McGrath and Shields back there and Redmond
too,
But then he can, if one of them goes down, he can still play that rebounding
And I'm not
role.
sold on Shields as well. At Dylan Shield?
Yeah, nah.
Was it Shields? Shield.
Shield.
Yeah. I'm still not sold that that's actually going ahead. Sometimes you get these kind of pre-season experiments as well that don't actually come to fruition, especially when you factor in someone like Nick Martin, who could go back there as could stay back there too.
I read their match sim, Nick Martin's playing half forward wing.
Okay, that was the rumour. Yeah, pre-season. So.
And apparently he's racking it up. So
yeah, okay.
I don't know. I guess it's hard. It's sort of the Harry Sheasel thing where he's really good at half back and accumulate the ball, but then at the same time, to win games of footy, they want him forward to centre.
Yeah, correct.
Damaging, so.
Yeah, so it's just a bit of uncertainty there that kind of keeps keeps Ridley in the contention for me. All right, let's get on to the next lot. So coming at number 90, Shea Bolton, 89 Nick Blakey, 88 Toby Nankervis, 87 Jake Soligo, 86 Harvey Langford, 85 Sam Darcy, 84 James Sicily, 83 Lloyd Meek, 82 Sid Draper, and 81 Jaden Short. So I guess we see the first of the youngsters. I think the other one that's probably controversial at the top, I don't think Xavier Lindsay makes the top 100. We have to double check that, but that's another one, another draftee. But we've seen some of the more prominent fantasy draftees. Do you think that's like fair having guys like Draper and Langford around that area? And who do you have first? Do you have Langford first or Draper first?
I'd have Langford above Draper.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I might do some adjustments because I don't like that. I was, in my mind, I'm Langford first, but when I've averaged these out, it's been the average between the rebuilding, the contending, but also there's a bit of a factor in terms of the ADP and the mock draft simulator, and I think it's kind of skewing the numbers a little bit. So I might do a manual adjustment on that one because I'm a Langford man first as well.
I'm pretty big on Langford as well.
But they're close. Like they're probably in a very similar tier when you're drafting, like outside of what the top two. Do you have them? Well, we're actually going to talk about your rookie ranks later, so we might leave it for that to see where you have them. But they're kind of in a similar tier for me. But I think one should be higher than the other. The other one, the other few that I've got in this kind of tier is this 10 is Shea Bolton. The community's low on him, but I think he'd be a top 10 forward regardless. I don't think he's going to hit the heights that people are expecting because that midfield is so deep at Fremantle.
They're stacked.
And I don't know how he gets a huge role in there.
Yeah, I'm the same with Bolton. Like, I think he's going to be a top 10 forward. But yeah, you just said to like Sarong, Brayshaw, Hayden Young, Five still hanging around. Then they got Matty Johnson,
they
Erasmus on the fringe.
Erasmus they've got to give a go, I think, as well. Otherwise, he's gone.
I think Cozzy Pickett's texting his mates telling him that he's going to join Freo next year.
And Murphy Reid was a huge, highly rated midfielder as well. And that's a draftee for those who haven't been following. But yeah, there's so much midfield talent and depth. And I think with Fremantle, they are missing that dangerous forward.
100%.
Especially since, what's his face?
Malt Walters.
Schultz went to Collingwood as well. Yeah. So, it's a bit of a factor there that they're going to be missing him there.
Yeah, I think they'd be better off just sort of leaving him in that role and then maybe he pinches in the midfield a little bit. But overall, if he can stay just forward and play that role, I think the team's going to be better for it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to who's the other one I've got in there. James Sicily is another one there. I'm finding him so hard to place at the moment. Just like you can make a case for him being higher and lower in the ranks, definitely. I think, because what's his role going to be? Like the most recent report I heard, he was training forward.
Yeah,
as well.
So the match sim I read today.
Yeah,
he did a quarter.
You're a Hawthorn man, aren't you?
Yeah, Hawks man.
Yeah.
Been disowned from my family because obviously everyone goes support like Jordan. Right, and I've gone for Hawks.
Yep.
But yeah, Sicily did a quarter in the back line, a quarter in the forward line, a quarter with CBAs, and then the last quarter he rested.
Yeah, okay. So take for that.
Where's he going to play? I'm not too sure. When I look at Hawthorn's team, I think with Kaushi Deer being injured, he's got a stress fracture in his back.
Yep.
I think Sicily's probably going to play forward.
Yeah, so that kind of dents it, doesn't it?
But they've also training a young fella, McCabe. He was father's son the year before. He's training forward line as well. So... but then they've got Barras and Battle and Weddle and Hardwick's training forward as well. So I'm not sure what the mix is going to be. We're just going to have to wait and see. But Sammy Mitchell does love to flick it around. And
so what's Mitch Lewis's status at the moment?
So he's done his ACL.
That's right. That's right. It was late last year, wasn't it?
Late last year.
Yeah. So
Geelong. So with Lewis and Deer out, it's just Chol.
Yeah, geez.
So then they've got, I think, Ned Reeves and Ramsden, these young rucks are trying to train as a forward.
Yeah.
Because they just need height, but I think eventually it'll be just Sicily.
Yeah, I think it's a bit dangerous to draft Sicily any higher than that, I think, at the moment. Lloyd Meek, another Hawthorn guy.
Yeah, big fan of Lloyd Meek.
I'm high on him as well. I think he'd be one of the better fantasy rucks. I'm happy to have him there. And Jaden Short was in that 10 group of 10 as well. Do you think he bounces back this year?
Has to. They've got no one else. Rioli's gone, so he was probably the main distributor out of the back line.
Yeah.
Richmond, I don't know if they're going to win a game.
No, they're not.
So it means he should get a lot of footy, a lot of kick-outs, either if he's maybe the next man on, so someone else takes a kick-out and kicks it to him, he gets that +6. So I think he should bounce back, but wait and see, because he could go in the midfield given that Hopper could be injured, Prestia could be injured.
Yeah, they will get injured at some stage.
So it could be him and Taranto and maybe one of the rookies.
All right, let's move on to the next 10. Coming in at number 80 is Took Miller. 79 is Josh Kelly. 78 Elijah Hollins. 77 Luke Jackson. 76 Lockie Ash. 75 Kieran Briggs. 74 Dane Zorko. 73 Darcy Wilson. 72 Jack McRae. And 71 Liam Duggan. So forwards obviously are probably going higher than their average suggests, but I feel like if you
Always
leave them,
do.
you're going to lift them, like you're going to lose out, and it's going to like affect your team if you don't at least take them. Like someone like Luke Jackson, even Elijah Hollins, like I'm happy to let other people go on.
Definitely,
But they're going to go in your drafts that time.
You need them
so-
eventually, don't you?
Yeah, so that's the other
It's
thing.
a pretty hard one when, you're probably looking around thinking, I want to get a midfielder who's averaging maybe 15 to 20 points more, but
Yeah.
the forwards drop away that quick that I think that's about right when I'll be taking them.
Yeah, correct. I guess a few in this tier here we will talk about. Kieran Briggs, like community's pretty low on him, but I just think he's a young ruckman who's consistently like top 5 material. So
Definitely,
I'd be
yeah.
happily
What did
taking
he
him there.
average this year? 100.
I think it was the 90s this year, but I think it was the year
But he had
before.
a couple
Yeah.
scores where he went like 130s
Yeah.
and 140. So
Yeah, he had actually like I think he started slow and then
Yeah.
kind of built into it.
maybe
so.
like a 40 or a 50 in the first couple of
so
games.
that's the
and
other one.
That hurt him.
And I spoke about this before. I got Dane Zorko in there. I find him very difficult to place. 35. He's ranked 35 for the contending teams, but then 133 for the rebuilding teams. But I still think that trade value there. Like even if you're rebuilding, if he's around at that 130 mark, whatever, you need to snap one. You need to snap that up. Like
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially if he's divvying out if he goes another season at 110.
yeah,
it's an
someone's
absolute-
going to want him
yeah.
in a trade.
Absolute masterstroke that he's gonna you get him pick 130 and he's
Do you
got
have any
110 average.
Do you have any faith in someone like Kaden Coleman to come in and replace him or
Well, they're
take his
talking
points?
Kitty's. So I've been trying to find some news around Kitty.
Yeah.
And there's not much talk about him. So to me, that says that he's not ready to go.
Yeah, okay.
And I think Zorko stays on half back for the first maybe half of the season until
Yeah.
Kitty's ready.
Yeah, right. That's that's the thing. But you've
And
also got then you've also got Darcy Wilson in there. So community's very high on him, but I just want to see some certainty about that role. But second year player, he should be in the kind of top 100.
Yeah,
as
I
highly
was
touted.
a massive fan of Darcy Wilson coming out of his draft year. Just his ability to run. He was like he won the 2K at
Yeah.
St Kilda in his first week there.
Yeah.
I just think he's a real sort of high half forward wing outside player spread, like Dylan Moore kind of type, lots of marks.
Well, I guess the talk is he's going to go inside with Philippou out and stuff
then
like
he could be
that.
that inside outside mid where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
can spread from contest, but maybe wins his own footy as well.
Yeah.
But if Philippou sort of does that as well, so with Philippou being out, maybe he's a sniff.
I can see that. And then 72 Jack McRae, I guess, as a forward.
He's back, baby.
He's got it. Like even though he's 31, like he'll be top 5 this year, don't you reckon?
Yeah, has to be because
You look at that St Kilda midfield.
It's Jack Steele and Jack McRae.
Yeah, and they're just going to be doing everything.
Yeah. So
And Liam Duggan I'm a big fan of as well. I think the community is a bit lower on him, but I think he spends more time in the midfield this year to leave Baker on the half-back line, so I think he's going to have a big
I
year
think
as well.
with Liam Duggan, like just because West Coast are no good, I think a lot of people just
Write him
sort of
off.
and maybe just slide on him, I guess, because they're going to lose games.
Yeah.
But if he gets that midfield time, I think he's going to be...
And I think he's in that 26, 27-year-old
Yeah.
age bracket where it's prime for keeper leagues to get the best years of their scoring out of them before they hit that 30 mark type thing.
100%.
All right, let's move on to the next lot of 10. So number 70 is Brent Daniels. I'm probably a bit more biased on him, but we'll talk about it in a sec. 69, Lockie Neal. Liam Baker at 68. Bailey Dale at 67. 66, Ed Richards. 65, Max Gawn. 64, Rory Laird. 63, Caleb Daniel. 62, Josh Dacos. And 61, Adam Treloar. This is a tricky tier because, like, Laird is 31, I think, but then he's going to have
31.
that cushy halfback role that's going to be massive this year for him.
Back to that 110 that we saw a couple of years ago before he went into the midfield.
Max Gawn, I think it completely depends on how Melbourne go this year. He's got a 3 years left in his deal, doesn't he? Or another 2 years at least.
But then they signed Tommy Campbell, so
Yeah, exactly.
He's not. There's no one really. Tommy Campbell. Sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect Tommy.
Yeah,
Campbell
he's
there,
all right.
but
The journeyman.
He's a good ruckman, but Max Gawn, I think he's obviously the number one.
Yeah.
And if Melbourne can push flag, or if they,
Yeah.
I think he's definitely a chance to be a 110 again.
My fear is if they capitulate, do they just rest him, put him on ice, and like make sure he's right for next year, so if they can go again type thing. He's already done the larynx this year. I think he's back training now. He's fine
Yeah, he's back
again.
in contact thing.
But there was times last year where he was out with injury as well. And do they just start kind of resting him up to get the old fella through? That's just my fear, you know?
I think you have to. He's getting old.
Yeah.
Like especially the ruck position, you just bash and crash into each other all day, every game. He gets to probably like 70 contests a game. So.
And even like Treloar, it's like that calf. He's going to miss the first few weeks, isn't he? Like this far out. once you hit 31 like he is, and then you're doing calf injuries, that's just danger signs for me.
Well, he did it earlier in the season, in the preseason as well, and was managing it, and now he's done it again.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a bit of a red flag.
Yeah. So even for the contending teams, like I had him super low, and I actually got Geordie to have a look at the ranks in full, and he's like, "Oh, you've got to have him higher than that because he's output."
Well, he was a high scorer.
Yeah, of course.
Year,
he was. Yeah,
it's, he knows how to find the footy.
Yeah,
but he is always. He was. Remember the other year did his double hamstring that he had. So the double hammy, the fish. So I think I'd take a punt on him though. Like the way I'd probably look at it is if Treloar's there at pick 60, I'd probably take him. So,
yeah, exactly. So it's where you got to kind of have.
It's more the upside he can get in the back end of the season where if he
gets
his calf right.
If you're in a position where you're a rebuilding team, would you worry about him? Because
I would let him slide.
Yeah, he could get injured and miss that chunk, and he's not valuable to anyone.
But then, because you can be rebuilding, but you can also still trade to a contender at the same time. So I'd have to weigh it up depending on what I needed. But if you know going into the season that you're not, like you've got patience and you're waiting on kids to pop, then maybe you could take a Treloar and just, take his scores to the back end and trade him off.
True. Especially if they're around finals territory as well. They'll be pushing him back to play finals regardless of what injury there is.
He should still have 2 or 3 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't go at 110, but if he goes at 90 or 95.
Or maybe he doesn't go at 23 games per year as well. But he's still, if he's there on grand final day for you, that's when you want him there. So I think.
Exactly when you want him.
Yeah. The other one's in there. Liam Baker, I can see being a top 5 forward this season.
If he gets that, if he takes kick-outs and half-back roll.
Yeah.
I think Jinby's back training with the defenders as well.
Yeah.
McWalter said.
So that's another kind of case for Duggan, I think, as well.
Yeah,
has to go into the midfield.
Swap, probably Duggan out. But then, Liam Baker should be half back. And
I think the other one in that tier, I think, is Josh Dacos. I'm really high on because I just don't see him staying on the. I think Lipinski's like training out in the wing, and he's been looking at half back. But also there was talk of that prior to that, and we saw it in the last round last year of him just playing inside and dominating as well. And that Collingwood midfield, there's going to be some huge changes. Like, Degoe's 30 now, 29 or 30.
Yeah, it'd be about that.
Getting old. Pendlebury's finished.
Yeah,
Mitchell's finished.
32.
Yeah, like Pendlebury's not finished, sorry, but he's going to be finishing after this year. You know,
Pendlebury's been finished for the last 8 years.
I know, yeah. And then, like, he's still scoring okay, but he'll be a 70s guy now. But I think the annoying part is they'll play him each week, but he'll probably be subbed, But anyway, there's 3 guys in there, Tom Mitchell as well, as you mentioned. They're going to be gone in another season. That leaves a big hole in their midfield. And it's going to be filled with someone like Josh Dacos, I think. Yeah. And that's why I'm so high on Nick Dacos as well, probably over Sheasel in the rebuilding teams, is because once those guys go, all the ball was going through them. Absolutely all of it.
Whereas, Sheasel's got a lot of competition.
LDU's going to come through. McCurdy's going to come through. Wardlaw. Yeah, exactly. That's probably why I'm a little higher, despite, but we'll get to the top few later on. And Caleb Daniel, do you think that's too high for Caleb Daniel, considering he's going to lose forward status in 12 months? He's 27, so kind of in his prime.
I don't know. I would say, if I'm going to be, I'd say it's too high.
Yeah.
Just because as a defender, it's not as valuable, the score he's probably going to get. And also I look at North Melbourne's team and I think he could, like Zach Fisher last year was Zach Fisher 2.0 essentially.
Yeah.
Where he was a forward, played half back, and then lost the status and then eventually found his way out of the team. So,
I don't think Daniel finds his way out of the team though. He's too much of a class player. It's more that, like, if I look at someone like Jack McRae, who we're happy to have at 72, you've got a guy, and he's going to lose forward status probably after this season as well. At least he's going to have defender status, Daniel. And this season, he's like 27. You're going to get more years out of him. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's kind of my reasoning. But it does feel high for me as well for a guy who's going to lose forward status. So,
but I mean, you can't really go wrong taking him, I think.
Neither.
You'll probably keep him next year as well.
100%, yeah. He'll be an 85 to 90 kind of guy this year, probably even higher, maybe even higher as well. So you're going to have no problems keeping him going forward. And I just don't see, I see McKercher leaving that back line eventually, if not this year already.
He's training as a half forward.
Yeah, heard that. But there wasn't the report before that was saying he was still on the halfback a little bit as well. So it's kind of been played everywhere. But the thing is as well, we've seen them, like 3 halfbacks or running defenders score well last season. Like we saw McKercher, we saw Sheezer, we saw Fisher all score well. So there's points to go around back there as well. All right, let's move on to the next lot of 10. So number 60 is Finn Callaghan, 59 George Wardlaw, 58 Patrick Cripps, 57 Jai Newcomb, 56 Darcy Parish, 55 Jai Caldwell, 54 Christian Petrarca, 53 Grime Myers, 52 Trent Rivers, 51 Harley Reid. Like there's guys in this 10 that like I would be happy to let Reid slide a little bit because I just don't see that. Same. I think, but like this is where he's going to go, I think as well. So I don't know. I've got to balance it out a bit more. I think on more so on what I think more, and then factor in the kind of community and the ADP rankings probably a bit less, but. Like that's where he's going to go in most drafts. So it's just something to think about, and and there is a chance.
Pick one,
exactly.
But he's mid only this year, so
yeah.
If he had forward status, I'd definitely be saying take him at maybe even higher. But I mean it's a hard spot. Like I see Grind Myers there.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to argue with his output.
Correct, but is it consistent? That's the thing.
Yeah, we look at Ollie Dempsey. He was pretty consistent throughout the year.
Yeah.
In that role, but for me personally, you had Sam Darcy. I think pick 80 before. I'd probably rather take Sam Darcy than Grind Myers.
Really?
In that kind of spot. I'm real hot on Sam Darcy, obviously.
Is it like my thing with Sam Darcy, and like he is so high on the community rankings, and I probably should have talked about it earlier, but like I just don't see like how the avenues for him to score better. Like Tim English is their ruckman, and he's going to be for a long time. He's going to play a tall forward role. I think just last year things went right, right enough for him to average 75. I just don't see how things can go better for him and him to average more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what do you think his cap is? I know
I think it's around that 75. Like if you look at my big thing like when I'm assessing players is I look at similar types of players and how they've gone through their careers. So just like forward rucks, guys that are that tall, they're kind of similar frame, like athleticism, that sort of stuff. And like they all end up kind of averaging around like the Charlie Kernos, those kind of guys that are kind of taller forwards. I know he's taller and can go into the ruck.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're all kind of like 70s. They have a couple years when they're like 27, 28 where they go in the 80s type thing. Like, but I don't think he's Jeremy Cameron level where he's going to be slotting goals from the boundary and kicking huge bags though either. He's just that very versatile, taller player who can go into the ruck and play well, but then will play forward and have down games and stuff like that as well.
True. I'm pretty hot on him. Like I think he's a unicorn in terms of like his height's like 207, 208.
Yeah. No, I get it. I just think like over the 10 years I've been following like AFL fantasy.
Oh, those players don't work.
There's been so many unicorns like that have come through that everyone like. Another one that people always talk about is Dan Curtin. Like, he's big. He's 198 centimeters, but he's so agile and rah. But then you look at like, and we had a bit of a discussion in the Discord about this. It's like, how many guys that are 198 centimeters averaged over 80 last year that aren't rucks?
Probably, I'd say 0.
There was 1. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen. That's how I look at like all this sort of stuff. It's like I just look statistically, this never happens. That's not to mean that it's going to happen. And if it does happen, they are the unicorn. They are that one of a kind guy. But I think like it's just safer to go on like a midfielder that is going to score well, or like he's going to be in a role, or a halfback flanker that's going to go well in this range. Then go for someone like that.
100%.
You know what I mean?
The only thing I'd say about Sam Darcy is he had pretty low time on ground last year.
Yeah.
So if he can increase that, but also with like Jamara and Norton take the first and second defenders. So as he gets better, he's probably going to get the better defender and get more attention. So you're right in terms of, but I just think his upside with his ability to ruck and kick goals and go forward, like he's special. But maybe it's like a F3, F4, not
I reckon if I had $1 for every time key forward he goes in the rucks, he's bound to have extra points. He's mentioned on this podcast. I'd be a rich man.
Well, I think Riley Thrilthorpe's probably the next one in line.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's move on to the next group. So 50 is Connor McDonald. 49 Will Day. 48 Hugh McCluggage. 47 Callum Mills. 46 Matt Rao. 45 Mateus Philippou, 44 Matt Roberts, 43 Jack Steele, 42 Jack Sinclair, 41 Tom de Koning. The big one, like I think I'm lower on than most, is Will Day. You being the Hawthorn man. Like for me, it's just like, is that Hawthorn game plan going to be conducive to multiple big scorers in their midfield, like with Newcomb being the guy? Yeah, and then I hate that. Like I'm obviously like the listener to this show know I traded him a couple of years ago for Daniel Rich, so I'm obviously salty and I don't want him to become good.
I also traded for him and then I dropped him to the waivers.
Yeah, cool. I'm not the only one then. So I'm lower there because I'm salty. But yeah, just the injury-prone nature of him. I can just see him copying like 2 or 3 more injuries and then just going, well, let's just sit you out in a wing or something like that. Like I can see that happening with him. He does like that. He does have the tools to be an absolute gun. But there's just that Hawthorn game plan, which I don't think is conducive to high scores because they move the ball too quickly. They're not going to chip it around or have heaps of marks and stuff like that. And then just the injury-prone nature of him, they might just try to get him into a role where they can keep him on the park a bit more.
Well, he's training forward so far this year. So, but with Sam Mitchell, I think he's trying to build like a midfield brigade of like 5 or 6
The Hawthorn
players,
community is saying basically all that, even Warple, like everyone's kind of training forward a little bit. You know?
They all are. So, and when I look at Hawthorn's team, like they've got a lot of well-rounded players that all sort of are very, very like good players, but no one's really the A grade. And Will Day is probably the only A grader, but then again, he misses a lot of footy. So it's hard to say if he's like, it's a hard spot to be in because he does miss heaps of footy, but then he is that premium. But even when he does play consistently, he's not going 120s, 130s. He's just a very, very solid. And then all of a sudden the game changes and he's the extra loose in defence. And then so that's the only flag I'd have with him because it might not be a consistent midfield role.
Yeah.
That's going to stop him from hitting those ceiling scores consistently.
Yeah, so that's probably why I feel better about having him a bit lower than most in there. Because what's the community's got him at 31, which seems super high for me.
That's a bit high.
Yeah, but there is a bit of hype about him as well because like I think, especially in Supercoach as well, he had a pretty good into the season as well.
Right,
so,
okay.
Yeah. Jack Steele's the other one. Like, I look at Jack Steele and like, this guy is 32 years old, but he's 29. Like,
really?
I feel like he's way older than he actually is.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I think been a premium for a long time, and you think, he's. Like, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, he was like over 120s.
Exactly. So I think he still should have like a good 2 to 3 years left, and 3 years is a long time in a keeper league. Like, I've gone from in 2016, I reckon I was bottom. I won the spoon in my league, and then 2018 I won a flag. You know, so it's like 3 years is a long term. And then I think my team fell off a cliff. So 2019, I reckon I was second to bottom, and then 2020 I was made a prelim.
Yeah,
you know, and then last year I made a grand final. Like, so in a few years, and in between that I've been top 3, top 4 type thing, kind of floating around. So like, point is like, you might want to go more longer term, but I still think if a player's going to have 3 good years left. And the thing with Jack Steele, I reckon as well, like you talk about Jack McRae coming in and perhaps stealing some points. I think with Steele, if he wins less footy, he does more tackling. You know what I mean? 100%. More defensive jobs. So like it kind of even, I don't know if he'll go bigger because of it, but he probably evens out a bit because he becomes the defensive guy, and he's the guy, instead of, you know, Ron Marshall tapping it to him, he waits for the opposition to get it and lays that tackle and forces that repeat stoppage. So he can kind of get a few extra force through there.
Maybe doesn't hit those 120s again, but like you said, like he's still got 2 or 3 good years. Yeah. I think the last couple of years he's actually been playing injured, like with that shoulder.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Yeah.
I think that's been hampering his ability to tackle.
Yeah,
but he's probably just thinking like, all right, tackle, get the ball, and he's not worrying about trying to spread and move because they've got like Sinclair in there or Wanganima running through and half back. Yeah. So, I think that's a good spot to have him, I reckon. Yeah,
cool. I'm happy with that. All right, let's move on. Number 40 is Levi Ashcroft coming in there. 39 Luke Ryan, 38 Riley Sanders, 37 Dan Houston, 36 Isaac Rankin, 35 Clayton Oliver, 34 Hayden Young, 33 Tim Taranto, 32 Jagger Smith, and 31 LDU sits there. So we've got the kind of 2 big dog the draftees. Is that the way you rank them, with Jagger first and Levi second?
Yeah, Jagger's my number one.
We'll talk about that in a second when we get to it. But
and Levi definitely is going to be a great player. Yeah, and I think that's probably just about right.
Yeah, cool.
Where he's going to be.
What about overall in terms of the draft rankings? Like, would you be going a 3rd round, 4th round pick on these guys?
100%.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad to have those guys there. The community's low on Dan Houston. I think he's in for a massive year. He's only, 26, 27, something like that.
In prime.
Yeah, so I think, and just the new club, all that sort of stuff, I'm pretty...
I think it's more... I guess we're in SA, so like I've watched a fair bit of Port because like obviously my brother and my family are from Port.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's a bit underrated almost.
Yeah.
Within like the broader community.
When they see him, like when he starts playing for Collingwood and they see what he can do, he's going to shoot right up those ranks, I think. Is Riley Sanders too high for the Bevo factor?
I don't think so. Like he's fantasy pedigree for me is he's probably one of the best fantasy players.
We're not worried about the not being best 22. If you look at his VFL stuff, like he's ready to go.
It's hard because something that I've noticed with Western Bulldogs, especially with Bevos, you know, these players go back to the VFL when they play. Yeah. You know, Sanders plays inside mid in the VFL and he dominates it, but when he comes up to the AFL system, he has to play a half forward role.
Yeah,
so he's too good for VFL, but not good enough to be a starting mid in their team.
And their midfield's crazy, isn't it? So with Trelaw being injured, I reckon they're going to have to start with him in there, I think. And I think he just surprises.
Libba's probably 1 or 2 years.
Libba's is one head knock away from retirement. So
he's in that. So in the match the other day, he kicked 3 goals from the midfield.
Yeah, I did read that. Yeah. So that's kind of the basis for me. I bumped him up a fair bit in this last week. Trelaw, and then that pre-season report. I think he's in for a huge year.
And he's a forward this year as well. Yep. So that's just something else if he can get that midfield time.
Correct. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the top 30 here. So Lockie Whitfield comes in at 30, contending he's really high. They'll give you the hot tip. 29 is Colby McKercher, 28 Chad Warner, 27 Jordan Clark, 26 Max Holmes, 25 Dylan Moore, 24 Isaac Heaney, Tim English is 23. Nick Martin is 22. Found him hard to place. And 21 is Jordan Dawson. Do you agree with the Jordan Clark over Luke Ryan?
I think you have to, given his age.
Yeah, that's the factor.
Like, I think Luke Ryan's probably better in terms of a fantasy scorer, and will be for 1 or 2 more years, I'd say. Like, just being conservative, and I reckon then Jordan Clark just absolutely takes over, and that's his backline. Yeah,
I think there's like, I personally, like, if I compare it to the ADPs, if I compare it to the community rankings, like, there's not a lot of discrepancy in this one. Like, Jordan Clark was the one that I had the highest out of most of the community, but with everyone else, it's kind of in between 10. Are you happy with having Dylan Moore as like the third ranked, like the F3 for the season, when you think of the next 2 that are going to come up?
Definitely. But again, I think Dylan Moore could even be bumped up purely because
he'll keep it.
He's going to be forward status for most of the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if people go earlier on him just because he's going to play that role. And then you look at the other forwards, it's like Ginnivan and Watson are more small forwards rather than that high half forward lead up.
Yeah.
Nick Martin, as you said, really hard to place because his role just keeps changing.
Who knows what it's going to be?
But if he gets forward status again now, it could be good.
Bumps him up heaps. Yeah. And like, it's not like he's played wing and scored badly in the past either.
Yeah.
So like,
with him pretty well. And then Tim English as well is another one, curious one, because other years, maybe 2 years ago, he was like a top 10 ruck.
Yeah.
Sorry, top 10 pick as a ruck. And now he's sort of sliding to 23. So,
well, I think the big issue with Tim English is the rules for rucks changed and made him less desirable. So he was the midfielder ruck, the guy who got around, took marks around the ground, played as like an extra midfielder type thing. I've got the possessions to do that because he's got a good kick and all that on him. Whereas like the rucks that kind of can force stoppages, the big bodied ones that kind of, now that they can come across the line, someone like Tristan Cherry, quite often instead of getting a hit out, he'll get a handball as a result because he'll take the ball out of the ruck and then he'll handball it to the opposition and then tackle them. Yeah. it's not pretty, but like, it's effective. You get a lot more fantasy points that way. Definitely. So it's like that sort of stuff happens a fair bit as well. Yeah.
So that rule's good for someone like Briggs, someone like Lloyd Meek.
Yeah.
They have those big.
Rowan Marshall was taking it and it just ended up taking out of the ruck and then booting it. Like he was getting 3+3s out of it type thing as well. So yeah, that sort of stuff happens quite a bit as well. So you're turning, a lot of those ruckmen are turning their hit outs into +3s and +2s type thing. Whereas
they're the best types, aren't they?
Tim English was never even a hit out guy anyway. Like he's not the kind of big body in there. He got his points around the ground and he's not just scoring in the same way as these other guys are now.
And the game's moving as well pretty fast. So then he's not able to, slide down the line and get those possessions. And
correct.
They're probably asking him a bit more, like let Bont and let, those boys sort of win that ball.
That's it. So that's the reason why he's down there. All right, let's get into the top 20. Number 20, we've got Josh Dunkley. 19, we've got Zach Merritt. 18, Bailey Smith. 17, Jason Horn-Francis. So we'll talk about that in a sec. 16, Connor Rosie. 15, Nazai Wanganeen-Millerer. 14, Marcus Bontempelli. 13, Rowan Marshall. 12, Will Ashcroft. And 11, Sam Flanders. So I guess the first one, what do we think about... we've got Jason Horn-Francis higher than Bailey Smith. Both will lose their forward status. And I think, for me, it's just I'm more comfortable going on a guy who hasn't missed 12 months of footy
with an ACL.
Yeah, I'm just worried that something might happen there. Plus, I'm a Port supporter, so there's a bit of bias.
Well, I just think as well, this is not really a factor, but Jason's more enjoyable to watch than Bailey Smith. So when you have someone in your team, you're thinking if they're basically the same forward, you're thinking, who would I rather watch on a weekend? Yeah. Who do I get more enjoyment out of? It'd be Horn-Francis for me.
Correct. Bont is a bit lower than probably people might expect, but he's 29, so should score well for years. I'd see him, like he's even someone who's like sliding a little bit on the community ranks as well. I think he's 19 when I took this snapshot here. So that's another one, I guess.
He's a bit disrespected, the old Bont.
He is, like, just because of that. I think it's more the age though. Like, and everyone thinks he's got to slow down, but when you look at the midfielders around him, like the midfielders around him are more likely to slow down than he is.
Definitely.
Plus, he wants that Brownlow so bad. He's going to have
he come back. He comes second or third in their 2K. And he's never. So he's come back even fitter.
Yeah. No, I reckon he's in for a huge year. The old Bont. The Will Ashcroft. Do you think he should be top 10?
Like you said with Bailey Smith, coming off a knee. I've just got concerns. He'd be gun, obviously, but I'm just someone that when you do an ACL, it affects you. So I'm just worried about him. And then I look at Brisbane's midfield, it's
very deep, and they're bringing another one in.
And Levi's come in.
Yeah.
So 12's probably about right because he's going to be a very solid player.
The Norm Smith hype is there.
He was brilliant that game.
And he was brilliant that game, no question there. But then you look at and I know he was coming back from an ACL, so some of his scores were a little bit lower from that respect. But I don't know, we've just seen players adapt quicker than he has. We are factoring that ACL as well, but he's not kind of like a Dacos or a Sheasel level. You know what I mean?
And he doesn't need to be in that team. Like they don't need him to spread and get those cheap.
Correct. Yeah, they got if he could quite easily get tagged, and they'll still the other midfielders will get 30 plus possessions type thing. So it's like, a bit of spread there. And then Rowan Marshall. Am I reading too much in this injury, or do you think he's right going there at 13? 29 years old. Do you think he should be a top 10?
It's hard to say, really. Like I wouldn't use my first pick on a ruckman with a bit of injury history. Like I like to have a midfielder as my number one pick. So you can easily make a case that he'd be top 10 and take someone else out. But I think probably 13 is just about right. That's just in a good spot for him.
All right, we'll get into the top 10 here. Coming at number 10 is Sam Walsh, 9 Noah Anderson, 8 Tom Green, 7 Andrew Brayshaw, 6 Zach Butters, 5 Caleb Sarong, 4 Errol Goulden, 3 Tristan Cherry, 2 Nick Dacos, and number 1 Harry Sheasel.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I've flip flopped so much between Nick Dacos and Harry Sheasel, and to be honest, this is kind of how it's worked out. I've got Dacos 1 in rebuilding, but I've got Sheasel 1 in contending.
Right.
Because just given the little bit of injury, Dacos is still behind. Well, not behind, but he's got more competition in the midfield than he will have in the future. So that's probably why the factor's there. And to be honest, in my contending ranks, I've got Cherry ahead of Dacos as well. Because I think if you're contending,
well, you want
the ruck that you can captain as well. Like I've got him a bit higher there, so it's kind of skewed the top 3 in terms of where they've fallen in the overall ranks as well. Because I've got Sheasel and I've got Dacos both at number 1, depending on which ranks you've gone. It's just that one of them I've put Cherry higher because I think if you're a contending team this year, I think Cherry's a better option than Dacos this year.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So
and Dacos has a bit of plantar fasciitis.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Season, so
he did partake in full training, no issue.
Yeah,
the
so he's
other day.
come good, I think.
Yeah.
But I just think the big X, mate. It'd be good to have.
You can make a case for him to be the number 1 in contending teams.
Yeah, actually, like I just said before, I wouldn't take a ruck with my first pick.
Yeah,
I would consider Xeri pretty heavily just because of his ability to score, tackle. And North Melbourne are on the rise as well, so they're going to start winning games. I reckon he'll start bullying opposition. So
and we talk about like ruck years, and 25 is so young for a ruckman. Like they will start that gun.
He's got ages. He's not even in his prime yet. This is basically. I feel like this is his second season or his third season as a ruck.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Anyways, the other one, Tom Green. I feel like usually, like if you just think of the name, age profile, his role at GWS, he should be a top 10 starter, but didn't average over 100 last year.
Yeah,
so,
he did have that game where he got injured for
a few
5,
injuries.
So.
Yeah, a few injuries. I think he had 2 games that were one another one that was pretty low.
But he didn't miss a game for the year, which is odd. So
he
did have that injury. But I think he played every game.
I think he went out in the first minute or something, didn't he? Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not sure with you because, just given the fact that he's more of an inside mid, maybe he doesn't have that ceiling to be the outside and spread, but he does take a lot of marks. And
that's it.
I think he's more relying on tackles rather than those uncontested possessions.
I think he needs a bit of help in that midfield as well.
Well, Cogs missed a fair bit.
Yeah, and I think Callahan's going to step up this year. So.
Well, he's due. We've been talking about him for a while.
Yeah.
And they've lost Peatling now, so maybe Callahan gets more minutes. He'll be more consistent.
Yeah. But I reckon if he doesn't go 105 plus this year, I don't think he'll be in my top 10 next year.
That's fair.
Yeah, so he's kind of like on his last warning, I guess.
Because he's getting to the stage where it's potential into actual consistent, not probability, like consistent performances.
Yeah, absolutely. He's getting to age now. And am I too high on Zach Butters at number 6, or do you think that's about right?
Nah, it's perfect.
Cool.
I watched him the other day at Support Training. He's just the way he's gone.
Yeah, he's a cheeky little bugger as well. Yeah, it's funny.
I
love to own him.
He absolutely just nailed Hall Francis in a tackle.
I was there. Was that the one I was there? Yeah, I saw that. And then they had a bit of a bit, and then didn't let him off or something like that. Yeah,
Jason was not happy about it.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I love that as well, and I think he's got ceiling with games. But it's for Butters. It's just trying to be injury free. Really, if he's not injured, he's going to be. 110 guy. So
all right. Well, the next part of the show as well. This is what the reason you kind of messaged me is like you were saying, you go out and watch like a lot of underage footy, don't you? So like the state carnival games and stuff. The things are in SA.
Yeah.
So you went out and watched SA versus Vic.
So SA versus Allies.
Allies was one of those.
Went out and watched. And then I went out to I watched Port Magpies play South Adelaide.
That's what. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And Sid Draper played in that game.
That's right.
As well. So. Yeah, and I sort of just follow the Coates Talent League pretty closely and just watch the scores and watch a few games and stuff like that. So just got a bit of an interest in sort of the rookies and players that are coming through. I find that sort of helps my keeper league, my team, if I've got a bit of more knowledge on sort of players that are getting drafted, and I can maybe pick them up a bit later or.
Well, that's
things like that.
the precise reason we've got you in on the show today is I want you to give me your top 15 draftee ranks for the dynasty leagues out there. So, if you're a dynasty league and the only good players you've got in your draft are the draftees, like who are you taking number one?
Jagger Smith.
Jagger
Smith, number one.
Been a lot of contention out there in the community out there over who goes number one.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't going to take him, but just with Jagger, like, he had a game where he had 50 touches in the Coates League out of 151, and then he followed it up the next week with 42 touches.
Yeah.
And then he played a couple of VFL games for Richmond throughout the year. On his debut, he had 31 touches.
Yeah.
And then went back to the Coates and had another 41 touches. So he averaged 113 for the year last year.
Yeah.
So he's just a magnet. And I look at Carlton's team, and I think it's Paddy Cripps, and then it's Walsh or Cherub, but they're missed games with injury.
Yeah.
Kennedy's gone. Hewitt's there, maybe Elijah Holmes. So I think there's an opportunity and a role for him, definitely.
Yeah.
And then his ability to accumulate the footy.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of him, yeah.
Well, number 2, you got Levi Ashcroft. And a lot of the community actually have him number 1. It kind of flip-flops between the two of them as well. Like you talked about Jagger Smith's VFL debut. His was more impressive, I guess.
Yeah, he had
so you've got Levi.
Yeah, Levi had 145 on his Brisbane debut for in the VFL. So
see, I've got pick 2 in my Dynasty League draft. And like I want Jagger, but I'm not going to get him, obviously. Well, there's a chance. Like the guy who's got number 1 has no idea.
You never know, mate.
Yeah.
If you listen to this podcast, you probably no chance.
Yeah, no, he doesn't listen to this podcast. He doesn't listen to anything fantasy. So he will actually go on my ranks and pick who number 1 based on that.
So you should put Levi pick 1 then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But yeah, you're comfortable having him behind Jagger. But how close is it?
Very, very close. If you get pick 1 or pick 2, you're laughing because they're both going to be absolute guns.
Yeah.
It's just I think Jagger, you'll probably see more of an instant impact in terms of scores.
Yeah.
And Levi, just because they've got their midfield like Neil Dunkley, Will Ashcroft, McCluggage, Berry, Bailey, Cam Rayner showed so much last year.
Yeah.
So
the way I look at it, I'm looking at like you pick Jagger Smith, you're getting Nick Dacos, type player. You pick Levi Ashcroft, you're getting Will Ashcroft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to sneeze at either of them, but you probably, if you look at the ranks now, like you're going Dacos first type thing. That's the kind of way I look at it in comparisons. So yeah.
But Levi as well, he's shown the ability to score.
Yeah.
He had 145 in his VFL debut. I think he averaged 107 in the Coates Talent League this year compared to Jagger, who was 113. I just think Jagger's more of a accumulator, like that 1-2 footy, whereas Levi's just a very, 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 very good footballer.
Yeah. I've said this a few times. We won't dwell on it too much. We'll move on to the next one in a sec. But like, when I watched the highlights and the tapes of Levi Ashcroft, I just felt he was a little bit slower. And that concerns me a little bit. Just like, he's obviously going to be a contested beast at the coalface. He'll be winning the footy there. But just for that run spread around the ground, he might be a bit impacted. But then you look at someone like Lachie Neale, who's not the biggest guy. And he still racks up heaps of it as well. So it's probably not too much to worry about.
Just a bit of footy IQ.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of stuff.
But Levi, he can go forward and kick goals. So I think that's maybe where we'll start for Brisbane.
Yeah.
And Fagan said if he was available grand final day, he would have played.
Yeah, okay.
So... And he's done the last 2 pre-seasons.
Yeah, of course.
Brisbane, so
he's ready to go.
He's ready to go. Yeah.
All right, number 3, who you got?
Harvey Langford.
Yeah.
One of my favourites coming out of this draft. So he's from the Dandenong Stingrays. He's gone to Melbourne.
Yeah.
So he's a big lad, 190 centimetres, and he's like forward mid kind of operator.
Yep.
I don't want to say he's like Bont, but he's kind of like Bond. I'd say maybe Jordan Dawson, that sort of tall midfielder who plays inside out, his ability to spread.
Yeah.
But he can take a mark. I think he averaged 107 in the Coates League this year.
Yeah.
So got the ability to score and take marks and kick goals and spread from contest. He won the Lark medal.
Yeah.
So he was co-Lark medal winner with Leo Lombard.
Yeah.
So they normally turn out to be pretty handy players. I think former winners are like Walsh and Ashcroft and Sanders, Petrarca, Cogniglio, Whitfield, those kind of guys. So they're normally all pretty handy. Gone to Melbourne, which I think is going to be great for him. He can play forward mid, ease into that team.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a lot about him, and he doesn't look heaps quick like we said about Ashcroft, but he moves well. He's got a gear.
Yeah.
And I think he's like that inside outside mid, win his own ball, but also can win the ball. At the coalface as well.
Now, number 4, I've got it a bit different to you in my ranks. I've got Sid Draper at number 4.
Draper.
You don't have Sid Draper at number 4. Who you got?
I've got Xavier Lindsay.
I like this one. And the amount of hype around him, that stood out to me. Whereas I don't have him in my top 100. I kind of felt like he should be in my top 100, Xavier Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, fair, but then also I can see why you didn't put him in.
To be honest, in my contending ranks, my rebuilding ranks, he's 85th.
Yeah.
So I've got him in the top 100
spot,
for that.
Good spot. Xavier Lindsay, he's gone to Melbourne, just like Langford. He's probably going to play as like a wing half-back probably from this year.
I've heard half-back is the thing, but if Windsor goes back there,
well,
maybe
the
not.
match sim, he was swapping with Langdon and Billings on a wing.
Yeah.
But so he's very classy, left footer. He only averaged, if he had got injured in a game for 37. So if you take that out, he averaged 95 for the year. But in the under-18 grand final, he scored 148.
Yeah.
So he had 30 touches. I think he's got like 11 marks and 8 tackles. So for the Gippsland Power, he started as a half-back and then moved into the midfield as the season went on and his scoring went up. So very, very skillful left footer, classy player. So for me, he's got a lot of upside because he can, show he can sort of win his own ball again like Langford and the other boys, but also can spread on the outside and take marks, and they probably want the ball in his hands a fair bit.
And then number 5, you've got Sid Draper. I watched a fair bit of his tape. Just looks like a clearance machine. Can win the footy in the middle.
Absolute animal.
Yeah.
I think at state training, got tracked at like 37 kilometres an hour or something running or something like that. So
it's almost as fast as me.
Well, when you get those marathons, mate,
it's more about slow burn, I think. Marathons, but anyway.
I love Sid Draper. So I watched him in that SA versus Allies game.
Yeah.
And he was on 52 at half time.
Yeah.
Was his first game back from shin splints, so he didn't do much pre-season. He finished the game on like 64.
Yeah.
So he's shown he can, score in the first half, but he's very Connor Rosey like that sort of those side steps that to weave out of traffic, wins his own ball spreads. And I think he averaged 90 for the year. But he's a bit hard to read because he played 6 games in the sample.
Yep.
So in the sample, his first game got 118.
Yep.
But he's probably like a 20 touches, 1 goal.
I think I looked at my stats as well. In his first 4 games of senior footy, he didn't go under 90 or something.
Yeah.
I think I saw.
Yeah, correct. So. And he played 1 under 18 game for South and scored 121.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah.
But then in the under 18 champs, he only averaged 60 or 70. So
that's the thing. But the under 18 champs, everyone was under 100 because the games are shorter as well, right? And then plus it's just a different ball game. You don't have the quality around you to feed it to a bit more as well. And if you're playing against a more dominant midfield, like one of those Victorian sides as well, it's going to be it's going to be hard. Sid's coming up with the Camporelli twins. Yeah, they're coming up against Jagger, Levi, and exactly.
Josh Smiley and stuff like that.
It's a bit different.
But he held his own. And when I watched him playing that Port Magpies versus South game, he just
ripped it.
Just a lot of touches, but maybe I think he finished the game with 20 touches, but it was 5 kicks and 15 handballs. So just gets the ball, wins it, and then spreads. So I'm a big fan of him.
Number 6, you've got Taj Houghton. Now, he was the one with the ACL injury, is that right?
Correct, yeah. So he went to Richmond in the end, Taj Houghton.
But I remember it was 1 game or something. Or no, it was 4 games and a huge average. Is that right?
Yeah, so from his 3 games, he averaged 116.
Yeah.
So he had a 158 in there. Yeah. He had 30 touches and kicked 4 goals or something.
Looks like you might have to be a bit patient with him this season.
Definitely. I don't think he'll play till the back end. So he did his ACL in training in May. He did say on draft night actually that Richmond told him as soon as he did his knee they were going to draft him.
Yeah,
so shows that they rated him a fair bit. He went, I think, pick 12 or 13 to them. Obviously they had heaps of picks, so they had the opportunity to probably take a punt on him. But I'm really big fan of him. His abilities like that forward mid kind of player, kicks goals, but wins his own ball. And very, very small sample size, obviously, because the year before he just mainly played as a high half forward. Yeah. But then this year he went into the midfield. And was damaging. But again, he was in the same team as Ashcroft and a few of those other boys for Sandy Dragon, so they're a pretty good side. But I think in our league we have this thing called a long-term injury list. Yeah. So me personally, I'll be trying to draft him late in the draft and then put him on the long-term injury list. Yeah. In our league, so and then we have a rookie if they've played under 15 games. Yeah. You can keep him as a rookie the following year. Yeah. So then it's almost like a free hit. Yeah, that's not a bad tactic for your league for sure. So if anyone's got anything like that, I'll be looking at doing that because I feel like his upside's pretty good because he can score and he's very, very athletic and he's an X-factor kind of player. Number 7, who you got next? Josh Smiley. So another Richmond boy. Big lad. He's 195 centimetre kind of guy. So he's like Cripps and Tom Green, those kind of players. So the reason he's not a bit higher is just purely based on I don't know if he has the outside game that you need to be those fantasy players, but his ability to win the footy is
Unreal.
ridiculous. He won at 95 this year in the Coates League.
Yep.
But in the under-18 champs, I think he only averaged about 65, 70. So he's a bit down in that. But in the final, he had 16 touches but 8 clearances. So that's the kind of player he's going to be, just inside mid clearance machine. And whether he can add that to his game, but maybe Richmond don't need that because, they just want him to win the ball at coalface because by the time he's in his prime, Taranto's probably retired. So he could just be a very, very solid 90, 95 player.
Yeah. So next up on the list, you've got Leo Lombard. I think we've got both these guys around pretty similar rankings. So tell us a bit about Leo Lombard and why you've got him at 8.
Yeah, Leo Lombard. So another one of my favourites, actually. I watched him in that game, in the Allies game versus SA. Kicked a couple goals, playing from midfield. He won the Luck Medal, co-Luck Medal winner with Langford.
Yep.
So the only problem for him is that he's Gold Coast Academy kid, I should say.
Yeah.
Is just that Gold Coast midfield's pretty young. So his old man's used to be a UFC fighter.
No way.
So he's a very, very solid lad.
Yeah.
But he was a 16-year-old in Gold Coast VFL Premiership.
Yeah. That's right. I didn't know he played. Yeah, that's
so
right.
He's probably had the most senior experience out of anyone in the draft because he played base VFL all year for Gold Coast again. Only averaged like 60, 65, but he's
that's
playing
senior footy. Yeah.
Senior footy, and he's playing like a high half forward role.
Yeah.
Because I think they've spoke to him saying like, if you want to get in the team, that's the role you're going to have to start playing.
Yeah.
They've got, Rao and Noah and Flanders and Took Miller. But
then they've all had to do that. Like Humphreys had to do it. Jack Rogers has had to do that.
Yeah.
Like he's going to have to do the same thing. So you're going to have to be patient with him.
Patient with him for sure. But I think the best summary of him would be Took Miller 2.0. So when Took's retired, essentially he'll walk into that role.
That's that's the comparison I had in the draftee analysis guide, I reckon. So.
If Rao goes to Geelong as well, could open up some avenues,
true that.
I think you have to be patient with him for a role, but he could 1 year have forward status and then finally gets that opportunity. But I'm big on Leo. I think he averaged about 90 95 in the under-18 championships, but played mostly so against people his age was good.
Yeah, a lot
and then
better.
Playing against senior men, he was 60, 70. So
And then who you got at number 9?
Big Toby Travaglia at the Saints.
I got him a bit higher than you in my ranks, but it's more now that I think about it though, because he was one of the better underage scorers, obviously.
Definitely.
But then you look at that St Kilda half back line as well. Like my thing with him earlier on was like, does he end up just not in a fantasy friendly role on a wing or something like that?
Well,
because
he's training on a wing at the minute.
That's the thing.
But then I think Sinclair did his hammy.
Oh, really? Yeah, I did see that. But that won't be too long. That was my thinking as well. So it kind of makes sense why you've dropped him. I think I've got caught up in everyone telling me I'm wrong with Toby Travaglia, so I'm happy that you've got him a bit lower.
Well, the only thing I'd say about Toby is I'm just not sure if he's like, I don't want to draft someone thinking they might get midfield time in a couple of years because he's a gun intercept defender. Yeah. So he played a couple of VFL games for Carlton this year, and in one game he only got I think he averaged about 60. But he had a game where he scored 75 and he had like 9 intercept possessions and was rebounding off half back. So, but the only thing is he started as a defender for Bendigo. Yeah. And the last 5 games he went inside and averaged 107. Yeah. So he can definitely score, but maybe he's like a Hayden Young Will Day where he starts as that defender and then goes in. But, St Kilda could go, we've got Philippou, Wilson, McRae, Steele.
Well, this is my point. And then I look at their backline. You got Sinclair, you got Nazire, you got Ari Shoemaker, who probably go in there as well. I look at their wings. They got Mason Wood. They got Ryan Burns. They got Liam Henry. Yeah, Liam Henry. Like, there's a spot there that he could easily fill there for a long time.
100%.
Which is why I rank him. Well, I've got him ranked higher, but I think I'm probably going to bring him down on that kind of thing.
He can score for sure, and he had games where I think it was a game he had 11 marks, another game he had 9 or 10 marks in the Coach Talent League. So can show that he can. He loves to run, rebound. I'm just worried about his job consistency as a role. Yeah, and then what if he's defender one week and he's mid for the next? That's the only reason why I had him dropped a little bit compared to the other boys.
No, I'm glad to see that. And number 10, you've got the number 1 draft pick, Sam Lawler.
Yeah. So. I'm just not sure about Sam. We had a very small sample size. Yeah. Played 4 games for the Rebels. Yeah. Had an average 91 with a 135 in there. I think he kicked a couple of goals from midfield. But
I think I watched the highlights. That one was huge.
Yeah. But then when he playing for Vic Country, he only averaged 60. Yeah. And in the final, he had 8 touches. So I was a bit like, obviously, he's injured a lot, had hamstring issues. So he hasn't done a preseason ever. He's been playing cricket.
Yeah, right. Okay.
If he can build on that tank and endurance and get his body right, I think he's going to be very, very special. And I can see why they took him pick 1. Yeah. But for fantasy, I'm just worried about his consistency, that's all, and his ability to accumulate.
I'm with you. Like, for me, we've had a few players like this. Bailey Humphrey's a similar one. Like he's the Dusty Martin type and great player to watch. Just a 90 fantasy guy. But we'll probably have forward status at some stage throughout his career that makes him kind of handy as well. That's the kind of vibe I get from him.
Definitely.
He just looks massive. He looks so big.
He's a solid
kid. Like looks like he's going to be not as dangerous on the outside, but a very much inside kind of ball, but then unstoppable around the goals, I think, as well.
They're the kind of players that in real life, like that's exactly the kind of player you want because they win you finals and they win you granny. So
yeah, exactly.
I think he's one to watch for sure, but I wouldn't be
going super high on him.
Yeah.
Well, I've asked you to do top 15. We might get you to push through the next few just because we're over the hour mark now. So what's your next 5? So go from 11 to 15 and maybe just give a sentence or your reasoning on each one.
Yeah, so next one's Finn O'Sullivan. He was picked 2. High impact, low possession operator. So played VFL for Richmond this year. He was injured all year, broke his thumb. But he played for Richmond VFL, had 12 touches, but kicked 2 goals, 1. So that high half forward winger kind of player, very classy, but probably more low impact, high impact, low possession operator.
Definitely. And next one?
Yeah, Murphy Reid. So he's, you mentioned him a bit earlier, averaged like 90, but at Freo. So forward mid kind of guy. Was meant to be top 10. He went like late teens, but I'm just worried about his ability to get a game at
Depth
Freo
chart,
because they're just stacked. So maybe if he leaves or he's a good one to stash because he's shown he kicked 3 or 4 goals in a game and he had games where he had 30 touches. So he can find the footy, kick a goal. It's just whether he gets a chance, really. 13,
you've got Sam Marshall. He's one I'm pretty high on. I think ranked, I've got him the same, but just looking at his numbers, I haven't actually watched a lot of him, but looking at his numbers, he looked pretty impressive.
Yeah, big fan of him as well. It's just he's gone to Brisbane as an academy player. So I think he averaged 99 for Allies. Inside, outside, mid, loves a little 1-2 cheeky link up. So he can accumulate the footy. It's just whether he gets a role at Brisbane, maybe on a wing or a half back in future.
He's one that you probably in your rookie list kind of rules. You'd draft late and try to stash him away.
Looking at stash,
Yeah. Next one.
Cooper Hines. He went the Dogs. He's probably more dusty than Sam Lather, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So he had games where he went like 140, 130, 120s.
Yeah.
Kicked a goal, bag of 5, bag of 4, bag of 3. And there's a game where he just like off the half forward just rolled through, the seas just parted, he's just turned and just laced someone at the top of the 50. But he's gone the Dogs. So he had games where he had like 32 touches and kicked 5 goals, but like 25 kicks. So it's just whether he gets a chance at Western Bulldogs. I know he's 190 centimetres as well, so he's a big lad.
Yep.
Forward mid hybrid, dusty kind of operator.
Yep.
Very, very raw though.
And your 15th rank, there's a bit of conjecture about. I find it hard to place this guy. Bo Allen's your 15th.
Yeah,
give us your reasoning here.
Well, played 11 games for the Peel Thunder last year, averaged 40, and played as like a defender. So a bit like Dan Curtin, a bit like Ruben Jinby, where he plays as a defender for his Colt side or for league side. But then when he goes for the WA, he plays inside mid. So he averaged 85 for Western Australia. I just don't know if he's going to play that role for West Coast.
Yeah.
Very athletic. Like it's a bit like his brother Ed. Like very athletic and sort of play anyway. Good footballer.
Did not make that connection. Did not know they were brothers.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
So
Ed Allen, Collingwood midfielder.
Yeah. So that's why I've just got him there. I think if he can get the role in the midfield, he'd be good. But whether he's very athletic and good defender. So I think you just play him as a defender.
Yeah, I've got Jimby vibes about him. Might be a slow starter in similar.
And now
roles.
Jimmy's gone back to half back, so it's like,
how do you get this guy in the team? Yeah, or how do you get him scoring well early?
Yeah.
We might roll straight into the question. Thank you so much for bringing us your top 15 ranks. A lot of knowledge, a lot of research. It's obvious that it's gone into that, so it's really great to hear. Thanks for that. Yeah, but the first question comes from at Thomas Stew 26182. Is about rookies straight up. So which rookies do you think will have an instant impact, or at least start with a good role? So out of your top 15, who are the ones you think have instant impact?
So Jagger, Levi, Harvey, Lindsay should all start. So Sid Draper's got a bit of a back issue, so I think he's being eased in. Obviously, Taj is ACL.
Yeah.
Smiley should play straight away, but he did have some quad, I think, injury concern.
Yeah.
Leo should play.
But he probably won't be as scoring effective.
Nah, so I think Leo's probably just like look at Jake Rogers, what Jake Rogers did last year.
Yeah.
That's probably what Leo's going to be, maybe a few sub games and things like that. Toby should play straight away as a winger, they reckon.
Yeah. But scoring-wise? I reckon
he could be Mason Wood 90, or he's
probably going to be Caleb Windsor, 60, mid 60s probably.
Yeah,
so probably not as much.
So I think that's where he'll be. I'm not sure if Lado will play. They're easing him in with his body.
Yeah.
Finn's training on a wing.
Probably won't score huge though.
Nah, not great. Murphy Reid, I'm not too sure if he's going to get a chance. Same with Marshall. Cooper Hines, so the only thing would be keeping him out is Sam Davidson, a mature age rookie that they picked up.
Yep.
He kicked 3 goals and then matched him.
Yeah. Still probably not going to be a high scorer if he comes in though either.
Correct, yeah.
I reckon Jagger Smith, Levi, Harvey, Xavier Lindsay, They're probably going to be the main guys, maybe Travalia.
Yeah.
But they're probably the only guys I could see putting up like a 75 plus average first up, don't you reckon?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's probably the ones. At the draft Bible, what are the main things to change when switching from rebuilding to contending, both for the redraft and the season-long strategy? Like, obviously, that for me, that focus on youth is there, but it's just not giving up on all value. Like, do it, but if you find value, like you can draft a guy earlier or someone's offloading a player for way unders of what they're actually probably worth out in the open market, and you can kind of get in behind the scenes and grab them. Like, it's still a good thing to do because like you can use players to trade for picks and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely. I would say you never really know when you're rebuilding or when you're contending sometimes. Like, you can
flip so quickly. Like I was saying before.
At the start of the last year, I was so keen on Sanders and McKercher, and I was like, I want them. I'll rebuild.
Yeah.
And I offered Nick Martin. I had pick 5 and pick 7. So the guy would pick 1. He said no. I ended up taking like Harley Reid next area, and I traded him and I won a flag. So like, as long as you got a good 6 or 7 core, I feel like you're always there.
Yeah.
And just always look for value. Look for blokes that are maybe going to drop off, like contenders that are ready to maybe rebuild.
Yeah.
And see if you can't keep every kid that you draft. So maybe try and throw a couple up and see if they bite, and just keep your core together, and that can change you from rebuilding to contending pretty quick.
I think also as well, like when you've switched it around as well, like look for like younger players that get injured, like as well. Like if a contender's got a good kid who's injured, you might be able to get them a bit cheaper,
definitely,
like in trades and stuff like that, because they'll need a replacement for them. So
especially if they're fed up with them and they've been, on and off.
Yeah, exactly. The next one is, we've kind of touched on this, but where do you think Leo Lombard rates against the top 10, 15 draftees? You've got him in the top 10 draftees, don't you? What did he come in at? 8 there, so that's fine. So he's probably in that level. That's from...
It's just that role. So footy's all like... Basically, they can all play. Everyone can play footy.
Well, this next question is, will he eventually move into the midfield? We'd say yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
100%. 100%. Yeah. It just might be a slow burn. Like, it might be 4 seasons or 3, rather than these other draftees that are going to get in pretty quick.
Need kind of Took to fall off a cliff. Need Rao to go to Geelong.
Yeah,
and
something like
those
that.
kind of things happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, well, Noah Anderson just got made captain, so Took could be on the way out.
That's actually something Ned Moyle needs to get bumped up my rankings, because I don't think Witts is a walk-up starter anymore. So
he's
another thing I need to factor in. At AFL FF, who do you think has been the most overhyped rookie or breakout contender so far this season? Have you got a candidate?
4 that come to mind straight away.
Okay.
Ed Allen.
Yeah, okay. I think he's been adequately hyped. Like, I don't
Elijah
know.
Hewitt's another one.
Yeah.
Josh Ward from Hawks.
Yeah.
And Sardis from Bombers.
Sardis, I reckon, is probably... the news is good, but I do agree that Sardis, I don't think... Yeah. He just looks like a winger to me. Like, his whole... I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Well, for all of them, they all can score at the lower level. Maybe not Elijah Hewitt. He's maybe not much of an accumulator, but... Like with Ed Allen, last year, it's almost carbon copy of Finn McRae, where everyone's saying, Finn McRae's going to break out, it's all going to happen, and Ed Allen's the same. Obviously, they're different heights, but I look at Collingwood's midfield and I think, they've added Perryman and Houston. So,
and then they're going to get, or maybe get Mitchell back, probably not, but they should get DeGoey back as well. Pendle's... Who knows what happens there?
Ed might play on that side. Maybe he's playing as a winger or something. But is he going to get the scoring role that we want?
I think the positive thing with Ed Allen is when we saw everyone get injured, they gave him a midfield role. Yeah. So I think when those 3 older guys drop off, he's the next guy to go in there. So maybe one day, for me, I said it earlier, Sam Darcy. I think just looking at the community rankings, like there's people getting like top 50 stuff like that. I think you're kind of locking yourself into a 75, 80 max guy.
Yeah.
Forward status for the rest of his career, hopefully. But I think you're locking yourself in to someone who's going to be capped at an 80 average at that point.
I just think if Jamara's obviously got some stuff going on, so I'm not sure if that helps Sam be getting the better defender or if it makes him worse. But I'm pretty hot on him. I've got him in my team and I'm keeping him. So.
Yeah, he's not a bad scorer. Like 75 to 80 average forwards you're going to need in every team.
Yeah,
like that's Charlie Curnow range that everyone's keeping. That's Harry Mackay range. Like. There's Jesse Hogan range that people are kind of keeping. They're fine. Like, I just don't think it's top 50 kind of worthy where the community's had him a lot of the preseason. That's all.
Yeah, true.
A bloody 13 in a Supercoach redraft. Who is the better option for a team that's rebuilding, Smith or Ashcroft? Do you play much Supercoach?
I played last year for the first time.
Yeah, same.
For me, it'd be Ashcroft because I look at Lockie Neal. Lockie Neal went at 117 or something.
Yeah.
And Ashcroft's basically going to be the similar player. His impact on the game will be there's I feel like there's a lot of mystery points that get given out in Supercoach.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ashcroft will get more of those.
I put out a poll for the Supercoach players out there. Who would they take first? And it was overwhelmingly Smith.
Really?
coming first. Well, and then I bring myself back to that point. Like, you're getting Nick Dacos versus Will Ashcroft. Nick Dacos is still a great Supercoach player. You know, he was in everyone's team last year. So, like, I think a lot of people jump to contested possessions, like that ball winning kind of stuff. But then you got to remember that also, like, disposal efficiency is a big factor. Plus, like you said, with the bonus points, like if he does something miraculous to win a game or something like that, like
Dacos does
that sort of stuff as well, that can really boost your ratings as well. So, yeah Smith, interesting. I would probably say, if I'm using those comparisons before, I'd probably go Smith as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, Smith's going to probably average more possessions and stuff. So I guess that could be the
as long as the disposal efficiency is good, then that should be up there, I reckon. Yeah. And then last question is at Richie96. The best key forward for AFL fantasy that isn't Cameron or Hogan.
Sam Darcy.
Nope, not bad. I'm a Kerno guy.
Yeah, I'd say Kerno as well.
Like, you just guaranteed like an 75 to 80. That's pretty safe. Yeah. As long as he's not injured. Like, I think he had a knee concern the other day, but it's been cleared.
Yeah.
So that's the
on
other thing.
Twitter. He's all good.
Yeah.
Harry Mackay and Kerno, they're probably the best two over the last few years. Like, used to be Tom Hawkins. Like, he was pretty solid back in the day. Yeah. Jesse Hogan's obviously pretty good. If I'm going to pick one, I'd probably say Kerno.
Yeah, same. Just got that extra X factor.
Yeah.
Can kick it back 10. Mackay's very dependent on the yips. So
he's getting better. He's coming back.
He was great last year. Yeah. Just hopefully it continues. Anyways, Matty, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
No
Where can our listeners and people find you?
Yeah, just on Twitter and Instagram and stuff at Matty DeSena. So if you follow Geordie, you probably see him retweet me a fair time. So.
Well, you've had a lot of retweets and shares and stuff from your training notes. You've been going out to a lot of port trainings.
Yeah, so
good Friday activity.
Yeah, me and Geordie have been popping down on Friday and we get a coffee and catch up as brothers and watch a bit of footy. So it's good.
I'll come down this week as well.
Yeah.
for a.
It's going to be hot, I think.
Yeah. Well, me and your dad were on the beers at 11:30.
He was on the beers again, just gone. So.
Oh, I missed him. So I'll try to get out there next Friday and do the same with him. But anyway, again, thanks heaps for coming to the show. Thanks for sharing your insights. Obviously, you can see where Geordie gets all his information from. Yeah. Great to have you, listeners. You can check out us on all our socials at Keeper League Pod on all of those. If you like the show, you get something out of it. You find it useful. You want to get access to the premium resources, whatever it is. You want to keep the podcast going on into the future, please become a member, sign up and support the show. It keeps all the stuff that I'm doing viable, and I can keep it happening going into the future as well. So thank you to all those who have signed up so far. Get around SC Rings. They've been kind enough to donate those rings to us for the members to win there. So get around those, and of course get yourself onto Keeper platform, the Keeper fantasy platform. It's going to revolutionise the game this year. Thanks once again, Matty, and we will talk to you soon, listeners. Catch you later.